What's up? We are live. I'm basically gonna film today's optimizer call. So I was just getting a pic with the point and shoot, if you can see that, of the little setup. Letting everybody know that we're about to go live. Posted on social media and all that jazz. Really good point and shoot, by the way, but there's always issues with the battery. I don't know if that's just a me thing or if that's everybody has that issue. It sucks. All right, so let's get this thing out of the way. Optimizer's call happens every single week to those people who have invested into it. And so lasts about 45 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes, each and every Monday. So yeah, gonna bring you in behind the scenes on what that looks like. Get my notes. Some weeks I have notes, some weeks it's like something's in my brain and I just go with it, and it formulates and bubbles up into its own little genius on its own. And in some weeks, I got so much shit on my mind and so much other stuff going on that maybe I don't put the time required, or the genius just doesn't bubble up in the same way. And that's okay too, I accept that. And those weeks, I have notes. Lots of notes sometimes. And a lot of times, really, like what we're talking about with, optimized man and becoming an optimized man, it has to do with a lot of other pieces of philosophy that I've picked up along the way that all fits nicely into this this idea or this concept. And so, we've got a lot that's happened since I started. When I started this thing, I just it scared me. I wanted to give back and provide a shitload of value. And then I just said, okay, fuck it, I'm gonna do this. And in the beginning, it was like really, really choppy and unorganized, and really I didn't have much clarity. I just knew that I wanted to help guys who were struggling. And in the beginning I framed it all as like helping guys with ADHD and behavioral type issues, and like recognizing that that's not real, and still tapping into your own genius and having a great life and accomplishing a lot. And now it's kind of morphed into a much more refined thing. And I think that happens for most people. Like in the beginning, you really just have to have the balls to do it and to start it. And then as you start to go, because you're in it, because you've forced yourself into the fire and not tried to perfect it all and get all the answers before you started, the answers start showing up the same way that they would have if you would have spent 2 to 10 years, conceiving this thing. It's just you have that action and momentum behind you, so it creates a lot more drive for you to really refine and get down into the nitty-gritty of what it is that you're doing. So, I didn't start with a code or any of this, questionnaires or deeper stuff that I have now, but now there's like a ever-growing, code and optimized man code that we have. And it's all these character traits and all these pieces that collectively make a really fucking amazing person, I feel like. And it's pulled from all of the stuff that I've researched, from like religions and Zen and Buddhism way over here to, philosophy way over there, Stoicism, a lot of modern day stuff too. But it's like really all that mashed together, and it forms, and what it does is it creates somebody who, is a great person and does a lot in this world, and then gives back in ways that help others, and stays grounded, stays humble, and is able to stay in their magical place and create. This person isn't always understood. I want you to understand that and be clear about that, but they are definitely somebody who is contributing at the highest possible level to this world. Oftentimes geniuses aren't understood, and that's what I feel like what we're dealing with the people in, the optimizers community is like geniuses and people that need to tap into that more and be given more permission to be more of a genius that they already are. Anyway, we're about to go live, so let me just get everything set up. Make sure this guy's working. And if you notice, like I'm on a pretty cheap setup here. that just happened. Well, great equipment is great, and I love that too. Sometimes you just do cheap while you're on the road and traveling and whatnot. Like, you don't have to have professional mic setups and sweet. All right, good morning, my brothers. It is Monday. It is the start of a beautiful brand new week, and I'm pretty excited about it. So today I have a little difference as I'm videoing myself as I'm doing this call. So I don't know if I'll do that on a regular basis, but I definitely wanted to be able to use this maybe as like a promo piece, or definitely give you guys access to it. Because I just had like a 2 to 3 minute snippet before I started recording and turned on this call, and then you kind of get to see like what I'm working with, and really how I do these, what kind of state that I'm getting into and what I'm doing behind the line, behind the phone. All right, so let's get started. There's a lot on my mind today. I was really contemplating like if I should have, like, what should be the topic of today's call, and have we gone deep enough into the habits and playbooks and daily routine stuff, and then really trying to feel out where you guys are all at and what's on your mind. And so today, what I wanted to talk about is I made a post the other night, just last night. Hold on one second. Let me get out of that. Okay. My Slack, I don't want that beeping in the background. So last night I made a post in the group about the Self-Actualizers questionnaire, which is, boom, for the video. And I'll probably pause more today just because I'm like putting stuff in front of the camera for the video and referencing that while I'm referencing you guys on the call. I hope that's cool. But yeah, every Sunday, fill out the Self-Actualizing questionnaire. Or Saturday, like whatever is your day to really slow down and just have it for yourself. It doesn't take that long, and the more you start to do it, the easier the question becomes. Like when you ask yourself for the very first time any question that is deep, it's quite hard to answer. Like, what do you want to be when you grow up? The first time you were asked that, even though you were a child and you had that childlike, freedom and childlike expression, it's still a pretty tough question, and it becomes harder as you become an adult. Like, what do you want to do with your life? Well, the first time you answer that, very, very difficult. The 5th, 50th, 100th time you answer that, it gets easier, and you refine more, and you find more details within that. Like you kind of start to pinpoint your own assumptions in it, and then you start to ask deeper questions. So anyway, each week, set aside a day and just create time to go ahead and go through this questionnaire. It's extremely powerful to go through this. And again, it's supposed to be very internal based questions to help you change your external world. Outside of that, not really much to talk about in terms of house cleaning. We'll have some new stuff being dropped in the members area this week. I've got some exciting stuff for you there. This last week, the whole team and everything that we're really focused on is, I told you guys about this before, but the Japan experience is upcoming thing that we have in November for entrepreneurs to go drifting, have a lot of fun over in Japan, learn to drift, and bringing over pro race car drivers to teach. We're bringing over some YouTubers, some personalities. We're trying to get this thing covered on like major media and major networks because I love this, and I want this to be as big as it possibly can, just like I want this community to be the biggest and best that it possibly can. Not in comparison to anything else per se, but just in comparison to itself, to what it could be. So that's really where most of our time was spent. And again, one of the things that I want to re-stress is that I don't feel it necessary to continue to add tons and tons of stuff, training into the members area every single week. I would rather just give you enough and really take those pieces and break them down and break down the deep structure and the why and how to really habitualize this stuff into your life versus here's just a bunch of stuff like, we're talking habits this week, let's talk this next week. It all follows and falls under a common thread, and this common thread is what we're talking about. So over the last couple of weeks, just to summarize, is we've talked about habits. We've talked about the deep structure of habits. We've talked about keystone habits, or the bigger habits that drive multiple areas of one's life. We talked about last week how to create a playbook and really how to create an if-then based response to things that occur and happen in your life. Things are going to come up all the time, and usually it's repeated things over and over and over again. And what most people don't realize is that in that moment of needing to make a decision and taking action, is there's an automatic response that's being triggered by you. And it's almost as if like consciously we black out and then we come back to after it's been executed. And that's just because it's a default. And you don't remember it because it's being executed, and it literally shuts down a lot of the awareness piece and conscious awareness. So hugely important if you have awareness towards areas of your life that you don't like and you want to change it, or you think you can be better in this area or that area, then you absolutely should. So that's what the playbook piece was that we were talking about last week. So now, this week, before we get started, I want to start off with a couple quotes that I think are very relevant. So the first one is from Aristotle, and it goes something like this: "We are what we repeatedly do. So excellence, then, is a learned habit." Fits in line with everything we're pretty much been talking about up until this point. And I really love that quote. And another one is at the top of the self-actualizing questionnaire by Abraham Maslow, and it says, "What a man can be, he must be." And that's a very powerful statement too, because when you tune in with that and check in with that question, you start to see your own truth through that. And so you start to like really see and have that reflection like, gosh, am I really being the best that I can be? And if I'm falling in line with that statement, like what I can be, I must be, am I really being everything that I can be? Not just in this moment, but just in my life overall. And that is the perfect transition into what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about value, my friends. And I made a post on my wall about this last night, my Facebook wall, is the value ladder and where men put their value in life is just so backwards, and it's so out of tune. So where most men put their value is on things like their physical appearance, their physique. I gotta be lean, I gotta be muscular, I gotta have abs, I gotta have big calves, my legs are smaller than his. Those things. They put it on their accomplishments, what I've done up till this point, what I've created, who's listened to me, the amount of time that I've invested, money, school, all those pieces into who I am today. That is also another value piece. Their current job title, I'm the CEO, I'm a founder, I'm an executive, I'm a salesman, I'm this, I'm that. And the money they make. So the job title leads to this much money. So that's my importance. Anything vanity related. So car I drive, the clothes I wear, how clean shaven I am, how pretty my face is, my haircut, ability to please a woman, ability to pick up women, penis size, like anything to do with the sexual pleasure of a woman and keeping one satisfied, roping one in, getting one is all related to value, and side note, I was at the gym yesterday, and it was so funny because I heard two guys sitting there like talking about dating and women, and it's like they were sitting there like giving each other advice on how to get women, and it's like the same thing. It's the same shit you were talking about in high school, and these were like grown men, and they were falling for the same stuff, like the same value equation, putting that on themselves and over their life. And I'll talk more about why you don't want to do this, but let's keep going. So men put their value on their knowledge, how their significant other looks, like is my wife or girlfriend hot? That's where they usually put their value. Well, let me tell you what the real value is. The real value is innate. It's you. Like, you fucking won the lottery already. You're here. You're a man. You're living. You're breathing. That is where your true value lies. And that is a very tough pill to swallow. And something that I'm always still reevaluating for myself. You know, I fall for this shit just like anybody else does. So I'm definitely not standing from the ivory tower. And so that's where all this self-actualizing stuff leads you to. It leads you to ask these deeper questions, to have this deeper realization about yourself. And ultimately, this leads to more happiness. Because when I am evaluating my value based on those pieces, I'm living mostly in shame and guilt. Because I'm shaming myself for not having more that would be more attractive to a woman, that would be more attractive to have more friends, that would be more attractive to my social circles, right? So I want more because it looks better to those people and is bragging rights and all those things. So what does that create? That creates shame. Shame on you for not being there yet. You're not good enough. I'm inadequate. This isn't a healthy relationship with one's body. This isn't a healthy relationship with oneself. And so what this creates, and it's like nobody seems to pick up on this, is what this creates is inner-outer conflict. And that inner and outer conflict leads to all kinds of health problems. It leads to binge eating, emotionally eating, changes in your body and how it actually cycles through things. So you'll have problems with your skin quality and your skin, you'll have skin imperfections, you'll get pimples, you'll get acne. You'll get a lot of these things as a result of the internal stressors trying to find an external way out. Like they're trying to go out of the body. And that's all caused by this, like, it's like your inner and outer is fighting each other. It's like, I'm good enough. No, I'm not. No, I'm good enough. No, I'm not. And so every time you accomplish something, it's like, yay, my value, I'm good again, I'm a man, I'm okay, like I'm worthy. And then you go into a new friend circle, or you go and hang out with a millionaire or a billionaire, and then it's, actually, fuck, I'm right back down in the dumps. I'm not good enough again. And so while this does encourage one to be very tenacious and work hard and grind it out, it's not a healthy relationship. And so just because that is a way to do it, just because you see everybody grinding out, you really don't know what their internal drivers are. It's just like anything else. Like, you have to look at the deep structure. You have to look at the root cause going on here. And if the root cause is unhealthy for that individual, none of it is worth it. Let me repeat that. If the root cause is unhealthy for that individual, it is not worth it. So you have no idea what's driving whoever it is that you idolize on TV, on social media, in a business world. So for you to try and act like them and work 24/7 and be like them is really fucking stupid. First and foremost, like, you are enough right now. Right now, with the amount of money you make, right now with the amount of stuff you have, the girlfriend, wife, significant other you have, you are good enough right now. Whether you got six-pack abs or not, like, you won. And so part of the dynamic of becoming an optimized man is to fall in love with yourself, is to shift and flip-flop this from being all guilt-driven to being all love-driven. And it's not this egotistical, like, oh my gosh, I'm so awesome, I'm amazing, like, look at you. But it kind of is. Like, it's an unconditional love that you have for yourself based on and by recognizing the courage that you have just to be here. Because first and foremost, it is a courageous act to be a human being. I firmly believe that. I believe it was a choice to become a human being. I believe that you are not your body. The real you, the real self, is an energy-based thing. It is not a physical body. You are inhabiting the physical body through this human experience. And I get that that might be heavy, it might be deep. Chew on it. Let's keep rolling. So we have to fall in love with ourselves so that everything that we do, our actions, are based on love. Not based on guilt, not based on shame, and not based on fear. Now, this is a big topic. This is like a lot to digest here, because what we see around us is 99% of the world falling for fear. I mean, just look at the bullshit that the U.S. government plays on its people every single day through things like media manipulation and, planted stories and propaganda. And all that is because the U.S. government fears its people, because the masses are greater than the few. So because it fears its people, and because it fears the power that they actually hold, it attempts to suppress them. It attempts to put its thumb down on them and make them feel small and stupid and unworthy and inadequate and just not enough. Ever not enough. Because God forbid, I can look at another billboard and there's a hotter chick than mine. I can look at another underwear ad and it looks like he's got a bigger dick than me. He's got bigger abs than me, better abs than me, more muscle. He's got cooler hair than me. He's wearing a nicer suit than me. Look at that new car. And you see, they've created this society, and they've been very good at doing this, of consumerism. And so they are just trying to get people to become a consumer and fall in line to get excited about the next product. Apple does an amazing job of this, by the way. Apple, I don't think, looks at their people the same as, let's say, the U.S. government does, but they are very good at getting you to fall in line for the next biggest and best thing, right? Call them early adopters, whatever. Like, they've done an amazing job of that. And I think that's important to understand, because, oftentimes the people in this group and the geniuses that you guys are, you don't fit in to the world around you. You're widely misunderstood. And that can be really discouraging at times. It can even make you feel lost. You can fall into a depressive slump. You can contemplate suicide. I've been there. I've done this. All because I didn't feel understood. I felt like I massively fit out. I felt like, maybe I was born in the wrong time, the wrong generation. The world wasn't ready for somebody like me. And it's mostly because, most people are suppressed. And this is all based on fear and control. So the U.S. government fears its people, so it tries to control them through instilling fear in them. Because God forbid, if they were empowered, we wouldn't have power. That's the thought process anyways, but that's quite silly. And so I point all this out for you to understand that once you understand this little game and how the real world actually works and the driving forces behind everybody else and their decision making, which is what we've been talking about with a habits piece and creating a playbook. You are like raising yourself above the clouds and looking down at everything else going on. And you're having this vantage point that nobody else really has. There's such a small percentage of people that even have the courage to do what you've done by joining this community, by going internally and exploring and trying to get answers. There's so few people that are willing to do that, by the way, that you're already in an elite class of person. And then so what starts to happen is, because again, like the type of person that fits into this community doesn't really fit into the regular world the same way that everybody else does, because everybody else is so busy getting in line and just, fighting for the next upgrade in their life through working 2 to 3 jobs, that the entrepreneur, the person who's a self-starter that wants to come out and make big change, they're widely misunderstood. And because all those people are used to being suppressed, those people aren't bad, by the way. Let me just be clear about that. To be an employee, to take that route is not a bad thing. Not everybody has to be an entrepreneur or has to go out and change the world. Even though that's a catchphrase and that's really popular right now, like you don't have to go out and change the world if you don't feel that calling, or try and leave a legacy or any of that stuff. Or like, it's cool if you want to work, fast food jobs the rest of your life too. That's fine. And so, kind of lost my place there for a second. But like once you understand this about the world around you, you'll see that most people are playing this projection game of trying to suppress you to make themselves feel better, trying to one-up everybody around them, make people feel smaller so they feel bigger. It's it's actually really childish. And it's funny when you see it, because you know how to then interact with it. And those things don't need to necessarily bother you. So whether this is from coworkers, from business partners, from family, when you start to recognize these things, they no longer have an effect on you. Because you've transcended that level of like, oh my gosh, he said I'm small, so I have to feel small now. Like, or whatever the scenario is, right? Like they're trying to belittle you or make themselves feel better, project their beliefs onto you. You start to see all these things. So like an optimized man is very transcended in his level of consciousness. So the things that most people fall for, he's not falling for anymore because he has an increased awareness towards these things. And value is one of the biggest ones for a man. Like where to put my value. So, and this is a driving force. Getting back to what we talked about in the beginning is that it can be a very big driving force. But if I don't know the root cause for this guy or that guy and why he's doing what he's doing, I should not try and be like him at all. Because for all you know, like that is their ideal state. That is their magic that they are in. So for them to grind out 24-hour days, or what seems to be grind out 24-hour days, that's nothing for them. They don't even see it as work. It's like this effortless unfolding for them. Because they are in their bliss. They are doing what they are supposed to be doing here. And that might not be the same for you. So you don't have to chase the same things as them, thinking like, and just because you idolize them, that you should be like them. Your path might be completely different. And I always bring this up to people because there's a lot of people that when they meet me and they start to idolize me and they see how I'm living my life, like they think that they should be like me. When in reality, you shouldn't. You should form your own habits and find your own trigger points that will make you a better person and further, push you down the road of progression. So without knowing the root of why anybody's doing what they're doing, I can't really make an informed decision on should I follow that? Should I do the same thing? Is that wise for me? And so that's part of the reason why you have to find your own gig. Like you got to find your own value system. You got to find your own, code of living outside of the optimized code and what we're teaching you in this community. Like you got to find your own way of living. Without that, you'll just fall victim to all these lower level emotions and means of manipulation, projection, and so on and so forth. So removing these pieces, these value pieces that most men have built in is very, very important. And when you start to shed these layers, you recognize it in others. So you see when somebody else has put too much value into their physical body and its outcome. And you'll see how this can be very, very bad for the individual, because when I put my value, let's say in my physical body, well, I'm also really, really glued to an expectation. I'm really glued to an outcome. And until I relinquish my attachment to that, I'm a victim to suffering itself. Because the minute that I don't accomplish what I want my physical body to look like, I will be in a state of suffering. So for me to want and expect anything else other than what I end up getting puts me in a deficit. It puts me in a vulnerable place as an individual to where I'm more at prey, or privy to being prey for marketers and mental manipulation from people that I come into contact with each and every day. And people don't recognize that. That's called an impulse buy, by the way. And that's simply because you are in a lower state or in a more vulnerable state, and there's a marketing message or a message that sounded very good that came along that motivated you and pushed you past the buy threshold. And a lot of that comes from the inner and outer confliction that I live with every single day when I put my value system on anything other than my innate being here. My body, my accomplishments. When I don't hit my accomplishments, what happens? I'm upset. I'm suffering. I'm unhappy. because I was attached to an outcome, didn't get the outcome, and now I'm suffering because of it. So I have to relinquish my attachment. Okay, I might be running out of audio or video time. I guess we'll have to see. We're about 30 minutes in, so I think it shuts off at 25 actually. Yeah, so this is different than, everybody on the sports team gets a trophy. Yay, we're all winners at the end of the day. No, it's the driving force between my okayness of making it and not making it is because at the end of the day, I'm still getting better. At the end of the day, I still love myself. And at the end of the day, my value is in me. It's not out there in this thing. My self-worth is not dictated by me accomplishing this promotion by this time or not. And if I don't accomplish it, the only thing that should happen is I should reflect deeply on the amount of months, days, years, whatever that just passed, and make a smarter game plan for the next time. That's it. Back to the drawing board, make the tweaks, make the refinements, go back out onto the field and start playing again. That's it. There's nothing else that needs to happen in that equation. There's no guilt. There's no shame that needs to happen. There's no being unhappy and suffering because I didn't accomplish this. You see, all that suffering just simply comes from me being too attached to the outcome. And that's very easy to do when I put my value on all this bullshit out there. And I put my self-worth on the line for a materialistic thing. You see this just in everyday life, like every walk of life. I'm at a bar. I go talk to this chick. She turns me down. She says, "Hey, you're the ugliest guy I've ever seen." Cool, great. I'll just go find another one. But how many guys would be crushed by hearing that? How many guys would be like, "Oh my gosh, she just said that. I'm so unhappy." Who cares? There's 7.5 billion people on this planet. 60% women. That's over 3 billion women. You think you can find one that doesn't think you're ugly? You think you can find one that you can marry and fall madly in love with and have an amazing family with and pass on your legacy? Of course you can. There's at least one. I mean, come on. It's the same thing with money. So I didn't make this amount of money. That doesn't change who you are. That's not your self-worth. You have to change that attachment and rewire the self-importance being attached internally to yourself. Not on this thing out here. My suits, my haircut, my skin tone. I got to get a tan. My girlfriend, my significant other, my car. The cleanliness of my car. That doesn't have anything to do with your self-worth as an individual. That's just stuff. That's a bonus. Those are things that make life easier. Money helps you get more of the things that you want. It helps you have more of the impact that you want. It gives you options. It gives you freedom. Because you can do what you want when you want to do it. That is freedom. So there's something I wanted to go with, and I kind of lost it. Give me a sec here. Oh yeah. So my self-worth and my value is internal. It's innate. It's built into the experience. So by me going after this goal, I can start to see, and I have more awareness towards when I'm not doing this, towards when I'm not being in alignment with that. And so anytime, and it's easy to find this and track this in your life, because anytime you're unhappy, track it back. It has to do with you putting too much value onto a goal or accomplishment. And not being okay with if that doesn't happen. And so something very easy that you can do is, as you chart out your goals, write, I will be happy if/when. So it's like, I will be happy when this is accomplished. I will be happy if it goes exactly this way, how I want it to go. And then you write out another question. How will I feel? What will happen if I don't accomplish this? And the first time through, what you'll find is that you'll write down, I will be unhappy. I will feel like a failure. I will feel inadequate. I will feel small. I will feel this. I will feel that as a man. Then you can start to move past those. Well, why would I feel small? Why would I feel inadequate? And what you find is you start to sift through the bullshit to get to that deeper thread, because there's always a deeper thread, a root. And that root is that you've put too much value and self-worth on an external thing. So all you have to do is remove that, work at eliminating that, and next thing you know, poof, happiness. So the thing I wanted to talk about that I completely blanked on is I wanted to talk about how I've gone through these different phases as an individual in my life and share that with you. Through my teens, the only thing that really mattered to me was physique and money and car. Like the typical shit that, you see people go their whole life and not really transcend this level. And that's okay. So everything was around my job, the amount of money that I made, the car that I drove, how I dressed, my physical appearance. And those were very, very important to me. So I invested a lot of my time, my energy, and my effort to make those things right. And I didn't realize it, but it was based on the fact that when those things were right, then I was worthy to have the woman of my dreams. And I didn't recognize that at the time. So I was operating off of this whole inner driving mechanism and this driving force that wasn't actually leading me to happiness. So it was, when these things are true, then I have permission to go and get the woman of my dreams. Then I have permission to fall in love and be happy. It's like, but until then I can't be happy? Who made that up? Like, who wrote that law? Sounds like complete utter bullshit. Why can't I be happy right now? Why can't I fall madly in love tomorrow? At that age, I didn't really recognize that. So that was the equation. When my body was on point and I looked a certain way, I had a certain amount of things, I was making a certain amount of money, I had a certain car, then I was worthy to have these other things that I wanted in life. One of the main ones being love. And then other things being like good friends and social circles, things like that. Being able to, hold the space and have conversation with super successful people. I didn't feel like I could do that or I deserved to do that until I accomplished those things. Through my 20s, it transitioned a little bit. I started to realize that fitness itself was a change tool. That when I needed to go and let go of emotions and clear out emotions, that I could do it in the gym. And I could get through my anger, frustration, and other things that would come up through the gym. And the endorphins that were created through a good sweat, through a great workout, and really pushing myself, lent a hand in breakthrough in other areas of my life. And also too, like the physical pushing through these boundaries transcended into other areas of my life. So it's kind of like, okay, well, I was able to go and deadlift 50 more pounds than I've ever been able to do in my life. Why can't I go do this thing over here? Why can't I create a successful business? Why can't I have the money that I want? Why can't I go talk to this woman? Then that started breaking down those walls and those barriers. Because I allowed it to. Like, I gave permission for this one thing I started getting really great at, which was physical fitness. And I said, well, this can transcend over here because I'll let it. I want it to. Why not? It's the same shit. It's the same underlying thread. It's like, I have this belief in my mind. Let's challenge it. And then understanding that it's not real and I can get more out of it and I can do more, be more, etc. Then I go and I prove myself right by being more. And then I have a new I have a new boundary. I have a new threshold because I just proved myself right. So it's like doing a scientific test on yourself. And then you're like, oh, wow, that actually just worked. Oh my gosh. Like, I took one more step that I realized that I couldn't before. It could be the simplest of things. And once you get the taste for that, once you get get that on your palate, it's like, well, what else have I been living life by and thinking that this is like the absolute maximum I can be and do and have? And that might not be true. And then you start to continue to challenge your own assumptions. You start to completely challenge everything about what you thought was previously true. That is extremely fun. And that leads to just a higher quality of life all around. And so that started happening during the 20s. I started to recognize that it was a huge tool. Then I transitioned out of, the fitness world and working in that world into more of sales-based jobs, which then landed me all the way into digital businesses and online businesses, getting into my mid-20s. And that's when I had really the biggest shift of my life, because that's when I got into things like meditation. I realized that I wasn't, really bad at reading, and I could read and I could focus and I could create something so big that seemed so big to me, but actually really wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't that big once you got started with it, like creating a business from scratch. Oh my gosh, huge in my teens, impossible even. In my 20s, it became a reality. All those levels and bullshit and value associations all started to fall away. And in the late 20s was self-exploration, massively self-exploration. Going and getting lost in the woods, working with powerful healers and spiritual people, learning, studying, researching, change methods. And that was like really obviously the next level, but the biggest push I think came during that time. And then there's a lot of transition during that period of being okay with not making the money that I thought was important before. And for me anyways, the value association with money is one of the biggest threads for me. And yeah, so really like starting to divorce that and like, am I okay with this? Can I be okay with this? And starting to redefine my value system at like the next deepest level, because that one for me is like a core thread that runs through. And so I really had to work at divorcing that. And I'm still working on it every single day. And I think I probably will for the rest of my life, along with everything else that I'll continue to work on. That thread was deep for me, so it requires a lot of divorcing the value that I put onto money. Most people have like one or two big ones that they need to work on, and that will take a while to work on. Physical appearance for me wasn't a huge one. The stuff that I had, I was able to get rid of that and shed that layer really quickly, because when I lost everything and I was living out of my car, then my car got repoed with the rest of the stuff in it, then that I kind of had to, right? Like, you can't sit around and mope, like, let's go out and let's rebuild. And so it forced me past that barrier. Maybe I went through that much quicker than most people would, I'm not sure. But that pushed me past that one. And where you just keep shedding these layers, and you end up in a place of true inner peace and true inner happiness, regardless of what's going on outside of you. And that's very rare. Like, that is so rare in the world around you. Like, you get to a place where you're okay and unaffected by the world around you, by the community that you are living in, staying in, visiting, the country, the city, the state, whatever it is. You are unaffected by those things. So you are unaffected by who becomes president in your country. You are unaffected by what they're doing with your water, where they're spending their money. You're contributing, and you're getting your piece out of it by running your business, living your life through that town, through that city, through that country, and that's it. You're unaffected by those things around you. Like I said, that's very, very rare. You don't really see that today. Most people are just at a whim, blowing in the wind. They're like a leaf or a flag. Oh, today the news told me this is important, so I'll focus on this. Oh, today the news told me that, so that I'll focus on that. Oh, Hillary Clinton's a good person. She's a bad person. Donald Trump is the devil. Nope, he's a saint. And they'll just blow in the wind. And what this causes is them to react to everything around them. Which you see this in heated debates and Facebook threads and all the just silly shit. And ways that people are just wasting time. instead of exploring the root cause of why I'm acting this way. Even just asking the question, do I like myself right now? That's the very first question on the self-actualizing questionnaire. Do you like yourself? Do you like what you do? Because it's a huge question and it's very important. And all these actions, these external actions that most people do, that they have no idea why they're doing, is caused by internal turmoil. And most of that turmoil is due to a wrong balancing of values internally and self-worth. The values and self-worth dictate my happiness levels. And that's all wrong. It's a way to do it. Yeah, it's a way to live life. You can choose to do that, but it's not the only way. And I don't think it's the most efficient way for us as human beings. And from an evolutionary standpoint, I don't think that a lot of the ways that you see us acting today will be around in 10, 20 years. Because it can't be. There's no way for it to be around. We won't survive. We won't last. Like, we have to all transcend. The collective consciousness level has to go up for us to continue to be around. Otherwise, we'll just fizzle out. All right, my brothers, that is it for today. I love you guys. Same place, same time next week. I'll keep you updated and posted inside of the community group on everything that's going on, and I will hit you with this recording as well. Make it an amazing week. It's Monday. Kick some ass, and we'll see you next week. See ya. There it is. You heard it first, folks. All done with this week's call. You see, most of the time I go off on major tangents throughout talking, and I've always been like that. You know, there's pieces that as I start explaining them, I recognize that they need some context to it. You know, you just can't come out of the water and say this and not give context to it and prove your point. And the reason why is because it helps your information bypass the critical factor. So sometimes I'm like in the middle of saying something, recognizing that I need to meet people where they're at, stop, and then rewind a little bit. Okay, let's come back, let's set some context. Then let me hit you with the point again, and it has more, has a higher success rate of actually bypassing critical factor, being delivered how I want it to, and creating that deep level change. Change I don't really feel is hard per se. You just have to figure out a constructive way to do it for the individual. Anyways, I'm getting a notification on my battery. It's dying. Something's going on. So that's it. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Peace out. Much love, my friends. Till the next time.